What's up, everybody? On this Mileage Unknown, I'm back in the garage with Pearl. And I named the car Pearl just because it's a project that has been evolving with more and more layers. I'm gonna flip you around and we're gonna take a look at some of what's been going on and potentially what I'm going to attempt today, because I've had a friend helping me do some welding and things of that nature, which I am not good at welding. I made a bigger mess back here. He had to come help clean it up, and we're still finishing things up there. So let me flip you around and let's kind of take a look at what's going on and why I've decided this car is named Pearl for sure. Lots of layers of the onion on this one. So some of the layers started in the interior. We were thinking we were going to be able to save most of what was there, clean it up, and call it a day, which we still are probably going to do with the seats for now. But of course, we thought we were going to be able to save the door panels, or maybe peel the vinyl off and reuse them on some new door cards. But they're in way worse shape than we thought they were. There's some mildew and stuff going on. So I think those are beyond repair. Now, I actually got a crazy smoking good deal on some very nice brand new black door panels, which Shannon hasn't seen and doesn't know I bought yet. So I bought those for her. I think they'll look great in the car. Even if we leave the red seats, it could be something that's in there for now. If she wants to change them later, we can change them later. But because Karmann Ghia stuff is so crazy expensive and I got a really good deal on the black door panels, I couldn't pass them up. So if Shannon's actually watching this because she hasn't seen them yet, surprise, I got you some nice new black door panels with the chrome strips and everything. I think they're gonna look great in the car. Now, what happened as we continued to strip out the inside of the car, as you can see, it looks quite a mess at this point, right? We found that there were multiple layers of the tarred bore sound deadening, more sound deadening, and everything else under the carpet that Shannon decided was just too gross to be cleaned, which I kind of agree with. It was a weird silvery gray color, so we pulled the carpet, right? In doing so, all of this nice sound deadening and the rubber undercoating of the car was hiding rust, only in this one floor panel right here. So I had to cut this floor panel out. So what you see here is that piece of the floor pan, which is roughly, I'd say that section there, right? So that's what we're actually going to cut out of this patch pan. Now, when I cut out the floor, I cut really close to this edge here on the dimples. So I'm definitely gonna be tracing, but I believe I'm gonna be cutting more to the outer edge so I can trim and modify and try and get that in there. So that's a few of the layers that have been going on in the car. Now, I'm not a welder. My buddy's been coming over and helping me try and clean up some of what was going on in the engine compartment. If you remember, this panel was hacked, floppy, and just generally falling apart. And you can see it's still not perfect. We've got some work to do as far as finishing it up, and it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be miles better than it was. Once this is primered, painted, cleaned up, the engine's in, the battery's in, the whatever, the sound deadening stuff's on the back wall, it's going to actually look pretty decent considering it's not going to be perfect and it was hacked up, right? So another thing, if you notice the wiring, which, yeah, that's house wiring. The wiring in the car, because it was converted to electric at some point, has had quite an interesting life when it comes to wiring. Now, I honestly thought Travis and I were probably just going to clean it up, patch it up, and roll on with life. But Shannon had mentioned, and it is probably the way to go, or honestly, it's the way to go, that she thought we were putting a whole new harness in the car. Well, here's another thing that I bought. so everyone was having holiday specials and I bought a complete harness for the car. So this one is definitely going to be some Trav help because Trav likes wiring a little bit better than me. It's not something I'm going to be able to tackle by myself at the house. And honestly, the fun of working on cars for me is working on them with friends and family and everyone, you know. So when I'm here at the garage trying to do it by myself, it's harder to stay motivated. It's harder to push through when there is problems that I'm having issues with, right? Like I said, I'm not a welder. Some of the welding that happened in the back, I actually made worse. And so I'm kind of paranoid at trying to attempt the floor by myself. But I want to push through and get the car going for Shannon. We've had it for too long at this point for it not to be moving. Originally, I thought we were just going to kind of hack it together, throw some license plates in the holes in the back and go that route, right? But we're doing the best we can and trying to make it as good as possible and do things as correct as possible to get the car back on the road. Had we not ripped the carpet out, I think we probably could have lived with that crusty floor and no one would have known because there were so many layers of sound deadening and the undercoating underneath. It showed no signs of actual rust when we looked at the car. But here we are, right? You buy a project car that you know has some issues. There's always going to be more issues hiding when you start digging into it. So today I'm going to work on trying to lay that rusty panel out on my new pan and figure out where we need to cut. Of course, I'm going to cut wider so I can grind down to fit that hole as best as possible. At one point, my plan honestly was to overlay the panels. Just overlay, drill holes in the new one and plug weld all the way around. You know, lay down some seam sealer and plug weld all the way around. But I don't know, the pan is thick, right? The pan's pretty thick. This is good metal. If I grind and clean up, hopefully even with my crappy welding skills, if I can get the panel set in there and start tacking all the way around, I won't have to overlap like I was thinking of, and it'll be a little bit nicer job. I mean, how many Volkswagens out there have some sort of patch in the pan? It's not like this is a show car, right? This really is the next step. This and finishing up back there is the step to getting the car back over to Trav's to start finishing everything else, to doing the wiring and getting the engine in. I gotta find a carpet kit. If anybody has suggestions for Karmann Ghia carpet, because holy crap, it's expensive. We may pull this dash pad off because it's spray painted red. It's not actually red. Same with everything else on the dash. So when we go to do the wiring, we might strip all this stuff back and paint the dash black just so it looks cleaner than this red. It'll go with other interior choices later on. It'll go with the black door panels, and maybe we'll do just some salt and pepper carpet in here with the red seats for the time being. But really the goal is to get this done, get the wiring done, and get the car on the road. Wish me luck. I'm gonna do some tracing. I'm gonna put the nice door panels back inside the house so nothing happens to them while I'm out here grinding away and doing stuff in the car. But yeah, I'm kind of excited. I'm actually kind of excited about the new wire harness. I think it's going to be more work, but it'll be really nice. We won't have to worry about all of the extra time trying to figure out what wires what's going where, because we have wiring diagrams. That harness is all built to factory colors, so you know, it'll be nice to get rid of all the hacked up wiring that's in this car. And that's another one that Shannon doesn't know I bought for her. So, hey babe, I buy you some good stuff for the car. I'm gonna start working. So you can see this panel kind of fell into place on the new patch pan, right? This is, you can see where the center lines and the ribs line up. Now these ones are a little bit bigger, but this is the patch that I essentially need right here. Now I'm probably going to draw or tape off at these edges, kind of like I was saying, because I want that extra room honestly, me cutting into a brand new panel, if I slip, if I mess up, if I do something, I want that extra space just in case. Because you can also see when I cut this out, it's not perfectly square by any means, right? So there's going to be some grinding that needs to get done on the new panel to get it to fit to the floor. And that's going to take some time. Granted, the more I leave, the longer that's going to take. But I would rather have extra than not enough. You know what I'm saying? Because with me, it's probably better to have extra than not enough. And it's still going to be possibly a learning experience for me trying to actually get this tacked in. And you can see this panel's bent. The floor is actually bent in on the car a little bit. So if I was to push it out, it's going to push further out as well. So I might need that extra just in case, but I'm going to kind of tape this down in the place that it's at. I'm going with that because you can see it kind of fell right there. So I'm just going to kind of tape it down, and then I'm going to actually draw further out. I'm going to draw along that line just so I have it visually. And then I got to figure out the best way to set this panel up to where I can bust out the death wheel and start cutting stuff off of it, right? So maybe you saw in the time lapse or not, but my having it stand up to get good cuts and whatever actually worked pretty good up until this last one when it just couldn't support it or I couldn't get it in deep enough. Unfortunately, my little battery powered grinder is killing juice actually trying to cut this bad boy out. So plus maybe the batteries weren't fully charged, it's cold, it's all those excuses, but I'm almost done cutting it out. Just have this one last side, and then it's going to be playing with the fitment to try and actually get this to fit in that hole. Our patch panel is free at last. Now I'm wearing the big old heavy glove because all of these cuts have all kinds of fun burrs and stuff that I've actually already poked myself once. We know the bumps go up, and there she is. You know, some of you guys might wonder why we didn't do the whole patch panel, which the rest of the pan is actually really good except for this one spot. Had we done that whole patch panel piece, then we're having to deal with welding the seat rails and stuff back in and taking them out. And that definitely would be that much more and further over my head. So my plan worked exactly how I wanted it to, except for, oh my gosh, it's going to take so much longer. So of course, you know, I cut wide and now I'm dealing with the consequences. So I really have to do a ton of grinding to get this down into where I can start butt welding it. So man, I don't know. Definitely going to be a lot longer working on this project right here than I thought. Today is a different day. So originally when I was working on Pearl and all the video footage I shot that day, it ended pretty unsatisfactory. As far as I didn't really show that I had finished anything or come closer to finishing something. I spent hours actually cutting and grinding and trying to fit that floor pan patch the way I thought it should be, only to realize I wasn't going to be able to pull that off at my skill level. So I had to modify what I was doing, and don't judge me too hard because obviously this is a first for me. This is first for me with the welder and some of the stuff because I have not done a whole lot of welding. I think it's actually coming out pretty good. It's still got quite a ways to go, but I'm gonna flip you around so you can at least see what I accomplished. There's not a giant hole in the floor anymore. Now, at one point, I was talking about actually trying to shrink this panel down far enough to butt weld. And honestly, the floor pan is so wavy, the panel's wavy, I was spending hours and hours trying to shrink this down to get it to where I could butt weld. And it just wasn't going to be worth the final result. So I did do an overlay of the panel. It's not a huge overlay because I had shrank the panel down. So there's a little bit of an overlay. And I started spot welding all the way around. And it's in. It's pretty solid. So I'm gonna have to finish spot welding, not super exciting. Grinding, not super exciting. Seam sealing, definitely not exciting. And I'm gonna grind and clean up from the underside, do some spot welds on there as well, and seam seal from the bottom and re-undercoat. I know it's not a beautiful job, and it will look pretty good, I think, once I get the rest of it spot welded up, cleaned up, ground up, seam sealed, painted, undercoated, the whole shebang. I think it's actually going to be pretty decent. It's already solid, way more solid than what was there. So I'm excited about that. And I'm excited I did it. It's not beautiful, but with more practice and more time, I could get there. Which just goes to show it's worth trying to do yourself. Even if I would have hashed that up, I have friends that could have come over and helped me pull it out. So I actually think it looks pretty good considering what it's for. It's for Pearl. Pearl's gonna be on the road, and nobody other than you guys, the 150 or so that actually watch this video, is gonna know that Wade did the patch panel on the floor. So I think that's kind of funny. You know, I've had friends go, I wouldn't show that, but it goes to show that you can do it yourself if you try. And maybe it's not going to be perfect, but you did it and it's there. I think that's pretty cool. That's going to be it for this Mileage Unknown. Stay tuned for more car shenanigans.